Mayor Daley introduced several new initiatives to tackle what he says is the city's most immediate and pressing challenge, violence on Chicago streets. He outlined the plans at an August 3rd news conference. Here are highlights on Chicago Works.
As a father and grandfather, you share the pain of those who lost their loved ones and friends to violence. The gangbangers and drug dealers whose only purpose is to terrorize our communities, kill innocent people, and profit from their crimes are evil, brutal in their ways. They're a small but a very violent part of society. The problem is that they believe they're above the law. They don't value life on a daily basis. They don't care about the consequences of their violence. As a city, all of us must stand up, and that includes every citizen of the city of Chicago. Like every Chicagoan, no one is satisfied that the number of homicides today is far lower than a decade ago, which is. But again, numbers don't provide much consolation if you lost a family member or friend to violence or feel vulnerable to an awful grip. But as a reasonable people understand, making Chicago safer doesn't have one answer. It has many, many answers. I deeply believe with strong policing, greater citizens' involvement. You need citizens' involvement. You're not going to accomplish things in a community unless the citizens are willing to stand up and come forward. And better and stronger gun laws, both nationally and in state. Better coordination at the local, state, and federal levels that we can turn the tide of violence. First of all, I challenge the Superintendent Weiss to review all strategies to make sure we're doing all we can, and good policing is very essential. Towards that goal, the department has put more police officers on the street. At my instruction, the department has transferred 268 officers from behind the desk to street patrol in the last year, and that was through an effort dealing with an outside group coming in and evaluating the police department, and that's how it was done. The department has also retained these officers for their duties. As we announced, despite our financial challenges, we have many financial challenges, we all have, we'll fund another hiring of additional 100 police officers for our community. This is essential. It's a very priority. Over the short term, the police department accelerate the use of $9 million in economic stimulus money to pay for overtime so we can put more police on street duty on weekends. Currently, we are using the funds to add more officers to streets on Friday and Saturday nights. With this change, we'll now add more officers an additional night as well. And that's important. They can evaluate that. Superintendent Weiss has put as many officers as possible in uniform, made sure they're more visible on the streets. Officers' visibility is very key. Further, he's implementing a new effort called predictive policing, which integrates many crime-fighting tools, including analysis, technology, intelligence, to help us fight crime much more efficiently. And that really requires a lot of analysis on this. Chicago Police Department is one of only a handful of police departments across the country to pilot this new approach, which is funded by the National Institute of Justice and involves a partnership with the Albany Institute of Technology. It launched in April based on positive results, is already being expanded with the police department. In addition, they staggered start times for gang and tactical teams so they're on the street when needed the most, which is really important. He has created a 100-person strategic response team that is being deployed to the most violent areas of the city. Last year, there were 57 homicides in July. This year, there are only 43. Again, we understand that numbers like these don't make much difference to many people, especially if you experience violence or feel vulnerable. But at least shows that the police department and many others are working hard to make our streets safer. At the same time, we are working even more closely with local, state, and national enforcement officials to better use of unique tools include RICO statutes to hit gang and drug kingpins where it hurts. The sting operation announced July 22nd involved a number of years involvement in the Chicago Police Department, FBI, the State's Attorney's Office, and sheriffs and others, resulting in the arrest of 25 people for gun and drug crimes. Many of these individuals were charged under federal law, meaning they faced the possibility of much longer jail sentences than they would have under state law. This morning I met with Cook County State Sheriff Tom Dart, State's Attorney Anita Alvarez, Representative Chief Judge Tim Evans' office. The goal of the conversation is to make sure that we have a coordinated, united front in the fight against violence. We have agreed that we will continue to pursue more collaboration in the weeks and months ahead. These partnerships are even more important in very tough economic times, and they are tough economic times when we all face budget challenges, local, state, local, county, state, and nationally. A successful example of this close working relationship is that 2 weeks ago, the police department was joined by 7 federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies to carry out Operation Return to Owner. This was the first of its kind initiative aimed at reducing violence, making the streets safer in 3 police districts that experience high levels of crime. Results show that was successful. We intend to carry it out, even out more of this type of operation. We convene a series of meetings with local law enforcement officials, prosecutors, public defenders, and judges, criminal law experts, and leaders in the reentry community, especially aimed at better coordinating all of our efforts to protect communities. And like anything else, both local, county, state, we all have our bureaucracies and different issues, but I think much more coordination, and we will have this recommendation coming up. We need to consider the full spectrum of how the system is working. It's a big system, let's be realistic. Ranging from arrest to adjudication to release, to make sure that collectively we are all doing all we can to make our streets safer and that we have all the information pertaining to that arrest. Also, we are redoubling our efforts to fight gun trafficking that brings illegal weapons into our streets. In its role as chair of the new Illinois Interstate Gun Trafficking Task Force, the police department will lead efforts towards engaging police departments statewide to accomplish 3 main objectives. Share more information with each other, with the state and federal government on gun crimes and gun trace data. And that's very important to solve a lot of crimes, the gun trace data. Develop better strategies to identify gun traffickers within their own jurisdictions. Jointly pursue new state legislation to crack down on traffickers, and all of us can make recommendations, whether the police, state's attorney, sheriff, and others in law enforcement, as well as citizens. We're going to work harder in Washington, D.C. to end the gun show loophole, reinstate the national ban on assault weapons, which is difficult, but I really believe we should do that. We will work to enact stronger gun laws in Illinois on a daily basis. There is no substitute for strong gun laws to keep weapons out of the hands of people who shouldn't have them in the first place. That was the idea behind the new gun law we recently proposed that the City Council enacted after the Supreme Court ruled against our existing ordinance. I understand that some Chicagoans want handguns in their homes for their self-defense. I listen to them. So our new ordinance puts in place a new 2-step process that allows responsible adults to keep handguns in their home. We will do whatever it takes to protect our residents, including getting more people involved in CAPS, and Ron Hollis here, and our new neighborhood marches, which he's really coordinating in the police department. He's evaluating also the CAPS program in the police department. There's also no substitute for people standing with the police department against the violence in their own community, on their block, in their community. It doesn't matter. We'll give those who march with us new ways they can stay involved in the shared fight to end the violence. In other words, after every march, we'll give marching orders to the many residents who want to help but just don't quite know how to do it. And that's the other thing you learn. We have many, many marches and all that. I think people want to know, well, what can I do the following week, 2 weeks, or 3 weeks? We'll continue to challenge more people to come forward to end the code of silence. That code of silence is very significant in communities, and when they don't come forward, unfortunately, the gangbangers and dope dealers know they can terrorize and run the community. Protect our children. We're fund after-school programs. An example, I told Ron Huber and Mary Richardson they have to keep the sports program in the Board of Education. Now, that was the silliest thing. I think you're going to cut out sports programs in the Board of Education. That's an example of doing an effective job and putting it back into effect, because sports programs are very important for thousands and thousands of young men and women here, both in elementary and high schools. Provide better security, which they're doing. Keep them as safe as possible going to and from school. And we have many, many parents who have adopted the school and the walkways and that, and we're very proud of that. Again, everybody has a responsibility to keep their children out of harm's way. With the federal grant funds, we are implementing our neighborhood stabilization program to acquire vacant foreclosed residential properties so that we can return to productive use and no longer a blight on communities or serve as magnets for crime. That is very, 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 very interesting. That is very important for us. Violence is a very complex challenge. Why we have worked on many fronts in ways to keep our streets safer, especially understanding that Chicago belongs to law-abiding citizens and not to the criminals or gangbangers or dope dealers. Thank you.
As the mayor said, he has challenged us to do all we can with existing resources, and we have responded. In 2009, we combined all of our district gang teams into one citywide unit under one commander for single-point accountability. And together with the new mobile strike force, specialized unit deployed them in the toughest areas of the city. We've reviewed every administrative position and placed 268 officers back on the street. We also sent departmental vehicles used by the administrative staff back to the street to be used by our crime fighters. We've reviewed schedules based on an analysis of crime trends and changed start times for gang and tactical teams so they are on duty when they are needed the most. As the mayor noted, we are expanding weekend deployment for Operations Safe City to include Sundays, giving us 3 days out on the street with an additional workforce. In April, we announced the formation of a 100-person strategic response unit that was deployed to the most violent areas of the city. Their work has been so successful that I've ordered the deployment extended into the fall. Recently, we partnered with other law enforcement agencies to pool resources and increase our ability to go after criminals, and more joint operations are planned for the future. We are also leading the nation with our predictive policing model, which is allowing us to anticipate violent crime and address it proactively. We are literally analyzing every homicide and every aggravated battery to look at the contributing factors, such as gang involvement, conditions on the ground, incident locations, and persons involved. The purpose is to extrapolate those factors to help identify future patterns, to develop a probability model that will help us prevent crimes. This information is combined or paired with human intelligence, and that's gathered from our specialized units and from district law enforcement. And based upon that two sets of information, the predictive analytics and the human intelligence, we deploy our resources daily based upon where violent crime incidents are expected to occur. Predictive policing or predictive analytics is the future of law enforcement because it allows us to work smarter with existing resources. It also serves as a collaboration or a corroboration of information that we receive from sources, which, as anyone will tell you, they are not always 100% truthful. But by using this analytics, we can corroborate what they're telling us. Based on our results to date, we are creating a predictive analytics group. This creation puts the Chicago Police Department at the forefront of data-driven policing. Their mission will be to provide a strategic focus to all of our crime-fighting efforts. We will continue our fight against the influx of illegal weapons that continually are found on the streets of Chicago. As the mayor mentioned, the Interstate Gun Trafficking Task Force will allow us to work closely with our regional partners to attack the gun trafficking through numerous strategies that we develop from Chicago to Springfield. And of course, we will strengthen the partnership between the police department and the community, because together we can put an end to the violence that plagues too far many of our communities. Thanks to these initiatives, and more importantly, thanks to the men and women who serve the Chicago Police Department, along with the community, crime has dropped now for 19 consecutive months. July homicides are down significantly from a year ago, over a 24% reduction from last year, and if you go back to 2008, it's even a greater reduction. I will continue to look for new and innovative ways to further reduce violent crime. That is our goal, and that is our mission, and we will not waver from that, because as I've said many times, the only acceptable number for crime is 0. Thank you.